Testing, testing, yeah.
This meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Law. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. This meeting of January 16, 2024 has been, 2024 was published in the Courier News and Star Ledger and placed on the Borough's website. Notice of this meeting was also placed on a bulletin board at Borough Hall with a complete agenda. A copy of this notice is available to the public, and a copy of the statement shall be included in the minutes of this meeting. Mayor Brian Gallagher.
Here.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Here.
Glenn Denny. Here. Tom Mitchell.
Here.
Randy Pitts.
Here.
Gina Stravic.
Here.
Roger Broom.
Here.
All right, please stand for the salute to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, motion for approval of the minutes of December 18, 2023.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Departmental reports and notices are as listed. OEM response report. As everybody knows, last week we had a significant storm barreling down on us once again. And as a part of that response, we have our Office of Emergency Management who coordinates all of the fire, the police, the rescue squad, the CERT team response to the incident. And they push out a lot of different communications during the course of the event. So I've asked Jason Kraska, our OEM coordinator, to kind of come up and give us a bit of a play-by-play. And you look good on camera, Jason. You're just going to have to speak. That works.
Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. First, thank you for having me, and thank you guys for everything you guys have done behind the scenes. While this storm was the 9th and the 10th, a lot of prep goes into it beforehand. So a special thanks to the fire department, the police department, the rescue squad. Pat Mannion with CERT, and he's also the shelter coordinator. Patty, who is our communications director, the county OEM, the school district, DPW, the mayor, and Councilman Denny. The storm came in, and as we all knew, it was going to rain, so we opened up the Emergency Operations Center. But before that, we did a lot. The DPW moved every vehicle out of the DPW, thankfully, because it did take on water again. As we look to relocate that, it still sits in the flood zone, so we still have to deal with that every time, which is an actual large undertaking to move, 40 vehicles and all the equipment they have there and supplies, and find locations for them. The PD was out putting barricades up in advance so that we could shut down roads quickly. The fire department moving vehicles, prepping their stuff. The squad moved everything out of their facility, which luckily did not take water this time, but it got pretty close. And then Patty with the communications, there was a lot of communications. One of the new things we're doing now is we're trying to push out as much information and warning as possible. We're contacting as many of the residents through social media, which is Patty, the Facebook, the Borough website. We're streamlining everything to your guys' Borough website, the new designed one, instead of OEM having our own website and pushing stuff out. We're directing everybody to that, so it's one spot for everybody to get information. So I do thank you guys for that initiative of, updating that website, because it does really help to have one place for everybody to go. With that, we were prepped to open a shelter. Thankfully, we did not have to. We worked with the schools. They delayed open, with the intent that we may have a shelter there that they would have to contend with. They eventually closed just because of flooding. It did hit us pretty bad. We ended up, for a quick recap, the roads we had to close due to flooding: South Side, Orlando Drive, 5th Street, 206, South Bridge Street, Veterans Memorial, and Center Street. All were shut down with significant flooding. And that is in addition to the other roads around us that also impede us. When Manville shuts, Hillsborough shuts down, it diverts traffic here. When 22 floods over in Greenbrook, people come down 28, come down our main street. So it's a lot of coordination behind the scenes that Glenn, 7-8 days into being on term, got to spend the night with myself and Mayor Gallagher. A lot of the police department was in and out, the fire department, the squad. We ended up opening the EOC at 5:30 on the 9th, and we didn't go remote until 1 p.m. the next day, and didn't close until the 11th. So we got to spend about 20 hours together at the EOC over at the police station, soon to be the new emergency services complex we'll have there. But a lot did go into it, and a lot of it's the prep that you guys, without knowing, do behind the scenes with setting up this stuff and allowing us to do it. We did sign into a state of emergency so that we had provisions in case we need to use them. Luckily, we didn't need to do anything too drastic. While we flooded, we didn't lose equipment or anything else that we've seen in the past. So that is pretty much the long and short of it. I know everybody here got those updates, saw the storm. A lot of you toured it, saw the pictures of all the flooding. Now we have a nice storm we get to deal with. And for everybody who's watching, 2 more inches are coming in on Friday in another cold spell. So unfortunately, it's been a active start of the new year. So for those of you who just got elected, I'm kind of blaming you guys for it. But no, so if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer. But thank you as well for everything you guys do, and especially coming down and staffing the EOC through the middle of the night in the police station.
It's fun.
It was. It was. We had a lot of fun.
So just a couple of things. Jason, admirable job. I think a couple of points to note. The amount of communication that was put out there by the Office of the OEM. And it wasn't just social media. So Jason began planning this probably Saturday or Sunday, the advanced planning of it. And we got together, and in coordination with our police department, we did a little bit of old-fashioned communication, which was bullhorns down in the lower parking lots at the apartment buildings, literature drops for folks. Really, a lot of it was to get them to move their cars out of those low-lying areas where they lost cars 2 years ago and 2.5 years ago in Ida. And that had a significant impact. Driving around at 1, 2 in the morning, literally, if there were 6 cars left in all of those apartment buildings' lower parking lots, that was a large amount. Everybody paid attention, they moved their cars, and those did flood. It's interesting, our Brooks handled it. Really, they handled the water. They were flowing pretty fast up until about 7 a.m. And at 7 a.m., and that was well after the storm stopped, 7 a.m., the river backed up. So all the river flow from up north came down, and that's when the brook couldn't enter or empty into the river anymore. And that's when we started backing up. So as Jason said, we were lucky. We moved all of our equipment out of DPW. We did have about 2.5 to 3 feet of water in the building, but advanced planning, they put everything up and they moved everything out. And so the damage was you power spray it, power wash it out, minimal damage, and then they're back in action, ready for snow now. So snow and ice. So phenomenal job all around. Kudos all around. Police, fire, rescue, CERT, the schools, and a number of other folks as well. So, any questions from council?
I think I inundated you guys with enough emails. You're probably tired of me. Glad and Brian, I'm sure you're both very tired of seeing me at this point. So thank you all. If you guys do need anything, just, from the Office of Emergency Management, let me know.
Thank you.
I would just
Thank
like
you.
to comment that Jason has done an excellent job as an emergency management, and want to thank him for all the time he has put in on these storms.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilman.
I do want to say thank you to Senator Steinhardt, Congressman Tom Kane, and also the governor's office. The governor's office has a representative. His name is Rob Field. He's assigned to Somerville, and he actually lives locally. He doesn't live in Somerville, but he lives locally. And he was on the phone with me probably about 7 or 8 times during the course of the 2 days leading up to the storm, offering assets of the state police and the governor's office in case we were inundated, because it looked like we were going to get about 5 inches of rain in a very compressed time frame. Luckily, that didn't happen, and we managed to escape with just, I guess, a day off for the kids from school, which is good. So, committee reports. Let's start with Glenn.
Environmental Commission, we meet the second Tuesday of every month. You're welcome to join us. We've had a lot of younger members from the high school come lately, which has been awesome, and they've been giving some really good input. Our meeting this month was set mainly on our 2024 goals and initiatives. I could go on about all of them, but I'll just take some of the highlights. Continuing our street tree program, so if you're interested in street trees, be on the lookout for that, so that we can get some more of those planted. Doing our Earth Day Green Fair, trying to move it from the high school perhaps to a downtown location. Also working to continue to improve our community garden, continue to work on various grants, and then also continue to offer lots of input and support both to the DSA for their streetscape, as well as the council and borough for various ordinances that are coming up, including trees as well.
Great, thank you. Gina.
The rescue squad met last Monday. They are celebrating their 95th year of service as volunteers to the community. They did provide an annual report, an amazing 1,606 calls answered by the Somerville Rescue Squad. Of those calls, 997 resulted in transporting, so more than half. And interesting enough, the top 5 categories for the calls, top 2 are fall victims, number 1, and sick, number 2. And they're very close in numbers. And then the second 2 most frequent ones are MVA, motor vehicle accidents, and respiratory emergencies. And the 5th one may come up with response, but is a surprise, is intoxication or overdose. So very active squad, very well trained squad, working hand in hand with the rest of the community, and we thank them for their good work. The Finance Committee meets next week, and the Board of Health meets tomorrow, so those are the committees, and we'll look forward to serving the community through that committee work. So, thank you.
Great, thank you. Tom.
Yeah, the Historic Advisory Committee doesn't meet until day after tomorrow, so I have nothing to report.
Okay. Teresa.
The Youth Services Commission and Municipal Alliance Commission met for the first time of the year last week. They wanted me to spread the word about a film program that is called Angst, Anxiety, and Our Youth. The program will take place on Thursday, February 22nd, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the Human Services Building, Conference Room 1 at 27 Warren Street in Somerville. The film is designed to raise awareness around healthy and unhealthy levels of anxiety and how it affects teens' mental health. The workshop will include a 55-minute film followed by discussion and Q&A. The program is in collaboration with the Somerset County Department of Human Services and Tri-County Care Management Organization. You need to register if you'd like to attend by February 15th. And for questions about the program, please call 908-704-6300. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Randy.
Thank you, Your Honor. In downtown Somerville Alliance News, I want to start off by thanking everyone who had a hand in helping us with last month's holiday jubilee. It was such a success. We saw more than over 1,800 visitors on that evening. A success that would not have been possible without the Somerville Fire Department and Police Department. Last month, the DSA presented their 2024 budget. The downtown Somerville Alliance Board trustees and the governing body. They will host a public hearing on their budget at their annual meeting on January 29th at Alfonso, starting at 6 p.m. The DSA will also discuss their goals for the upcoming year in more detail at the meeting, and are excited to be focusing their energy this year on infrastructure and streetscape, economic development, and production and installation of the Paul Robeson sculpture. We look forward to seeing everyone the 29th, and for additional information, go to the Downtown Somerville website at downtownsomerville.org.
Great, thank you. Roger?
I'd just like to say that, thank the fire chiefs for staffing the fire departments over the night of the 9th and the 10th. All of the firehouses were fully staffed in the event that emergency occurred. Thankfully, they did not. I do want to thank the residents for being aware and following our social media pages and you know, staying off the roads. We went out a few times during the night and noticed that the streets were clear. People were heeding the warnings and not being out there and creating an emergency, because obviously the best rescue is one we don't have to make. So it's great that you everyone stayed home, stayed safe. Thankfully, this did not occur as during Ida during rush hour traffic, but it was wonderful to see people staying home. I felt bad for the businesses. We went out on Main Street, and most were shut down by about 8 o'clock that night. But again, it was great to see that the folks were home. We had folks of the Swiftwater team on standby should they be needed. Luckily, Somerville did not have to do any Swiftwater rescues, like I said before. There was one that was performed on Orlando Drive, but that's Raritan. We can take that up with them later. So again, great job, everybody. Jason, great job. OEM team, great job. And again, residents, thank you so much for paying attention, for staying home, and for not having to be rescued. It's awesome. That's all
Well
I can
said.
say.
Thank you. And thanks to Glenn for coming out and helping to staff the OEM Operations Center. It's a long overnight, but thank you. Let's go into ordinances for introduction. Ordinance number 2721 is amending Chapter 6 of the Borough Code entitled Marriage and Civil Union Ceremony Fees. This is on for introduction. Typically, we do not have to allow public comment for the introduction phase. However, I do like to have public comment. I think it just gives people another voice at another time, at another meeting. So what this ordinance does is it just amends the fees charged for marriage and civil union ceremony fees. So public comment on 2721 is now open. Hearing none, we'll close 2721. Motion for introduction.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmembers Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Okay. 2722 is amending Chapter 166-50, Schedule 9, entitled Stop Intersections. This is for intersections at a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Hamilton Street and Southside Avenue. I'll open up for public comment on 2722. Hearing none, close 2722, and motion for introduction.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmembers Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny,
Yes.
Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Randy Pitts,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Okay, 2723 is amending Chapter 166-54, Schedule 13A, entitled Bus Stops. This allows for two additional bus stops on Veterans Memorial Drive. One is on the eastbound side across from the platform stairs. One is on the westbound side of Vets across from the platform stairs. Public comment on 2724 is now open. Hearing none, we'll close 2724, and motion for introduction.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Question.
Yes.
Which buses are going to be stopping there? Do we know?
They currently stop there now at Ridewise.
Okay.
It's through Ridewise, I'm sorry, it's scoot buses through Ridewise.
Oh, okay,
It's
the
already,
scoop,
they already stopped there, they're just not designated.
very good.
And I believe that's 2723, correct?
Yes, sorry. Yep, I did say 24, sorry about that. 27, 23, roll call.
Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny. Yes. Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
All right, 2724 is amending chapter as noted, on-street parking meter zones, reducing meter parking time requirements on Veterans Memorial Drive East on south side of roadway to 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, this is to enable folks who actually want to come to this meeting so that they don't have to pay for parking. They can park up on Veterans Memorial Drive, walk through the tunnel here at the train station, because nothing's more aggravating than have to come to a council meeting to voice your opinion and have to pay for that. So we're trying to amend that and make sure you have the ability to come here for free. So I think it's a good ordinance. Public comment on 2724? Mr. O'Neill, how did I know?
That tunnel is such an easy access of this building. I don't think anybody realized. Protected from the weather. You're here in a minute. So it's really a good short cut. It's very effective.
It's probably easier than walking from the deck.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll close public comment and motion for introduction.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny. Yes. Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
2725 is establishing Chapter 103 of the Borough Code entitled Legalized Gaming. This is, if I'm correct, Kevin, this is housekeeping to allow Sundays for raffles and bingo, et cetera. It's always been allowed, it was just never codified into an ordinance, and we're doing that now. So public comment on 2725? Hearing none, close 2725. Motion for introduction.
So moved?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny. Yes. Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
2726 is amending ordinance number 2682-220906, establishing a salary range for employee titles to be paid to certain officers and employees of the Borough of Somerville. This just establishes a minimum and maximum rate of pay for every borough position. Public comment on 2726 is now open. Hearing none, we'll close 2726. Motion for introduction.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny. Yes. Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Okay. Prior to opening the meeting to the public, I'm going to take a step back. Is there anybody here to speak on anything other than the firearm store, the proposed firearm store? Okay, so, all right, before I open the meeting to the public, I just want to clarify a few things. Probably back in the 2008, 2009, or early 10s, the borough had adopted a zoning ordinance. That zoning ordinance, what that does is it establishes what is allowed in every part of the borough. Where you live has a zone, an R1, an R2, an R3. Our downtown district has commercial zones. So we establish different zones. It's done in combination between the planning board and the borough council. The planning board takes up defining what is an allowable use in those various zones, and then the borough council adopts that ordinance. That ordinance is a guide for every residential and commercial business that can be placed into the borough. And what it does is it creates allowable uses. If a use is not allowed, if it's not specifically defined in an ordinance and allowed, they then go to the zoning board of adjustment, and the board of adjustment would make certain decisions on whether it's an appropriate use or not. The property in question at the corner of William Street and Gaston Avenue, that has as part of its zoning sporting goods as an acceptable use. That is something that this store falls under. It falls under sporting goods. So, you know, I've heard folks say that, you know, the council kept us quiet. It's something that, that they've done behind the scenes. Contrary to that, that is not the case. This is something that is handled administratively in Borough Hall. It must, I repeat, it must by law be treated as any business, any acceptable use business, because it's accepted in that zone. So if that zone accepts a beauty salon, if it accepts a restaurant, if it accepts whatever it accepts, it must be treated equally. We cannot, by law, cannot just arbitrarily say, we don't want that here, because it is an acceptable use. It's not something that we can be flexible on. It's not something that, that the public can say, well, we don't want it here right now. We can't do that. It opens up litigation, and we can tell you, and after talking with the attorney will corroborate some of my statements here. It creates a very bad position for the borough, and one in which we would have no success whatsoever. It is one of the most regulated, if not the most regulated industries, not only in this state, but in this country. When this store opens, it has to comply with all of the zoning requirements and all of the borough ordinances that we have. It must also comply with state law. It has to comply with state police guidelines. It also has to comply with federal guidelines and federal law. So there are a number of steps to ensure the safety and integrity of a firearms store coming into Somerville. We can debate all night whether it's appropriate or not to have it in that location. But what I can tell you is we do not have an ability to deny that. It just does not exist. And I know that may deflate some of you, but I want to be very transparent here. I want you to know that this is not something that we can change. Having said that, what I will tell you is that in my, my speech to the borough on New Year's Day, I did outline to the council and to the borough that the borough is going to be looking at our zoning overall. We need to take a look at it because it hasn't been changed in many, many years. And those are things we need to look at. So while we can't change that now, and if that store opens up, even if we change the underlying zoning, it doesn't mean it goes away. It means it's grandfathered in and it stays there. But what we can do is take a look at it and say, could this be placed in a different location that might be more appropriate? And that's up to both the planning board and the borough council then to decide on what that zoning change may be, if any. You know, it's a challenge when you sit up here or sit at the planning board. You know, a quarter mile up the road, we have a cannabis store opening up. I'm not a big fan, but that is the law. It's what we have. We have a liquor store in close proximity to the school. Is that the best place for a liquor store? No, but at the time it was zoned and it was allowed to be in there. We have a vape store in that same complex, which, you know, again, not a big fan of, but it's an allowable use in that zone. So are there areas that we need to begin to look at from a zoning perspective? Absolutely. And those are things we can look at. So I just wanted to be very transparent with everybody here because I know the arguments. I've seen some of the arguments on social media, but I want you to understand it's a concern that the Borough Council shares. We need to be sure that moving forward from here that we create zones that are appropriate. So, Jeremy is the borough attorney. Do you want to weigh in at all on this?
My understanding is that our zoning official has determined that proposed use is permitted in that zone. So absent a change to the zoning before they had made that application, there's really nothing that could be done to prevent that store from opening there. They have the right to open there in that location. The way to prevent that maybe from happening in the future is to consider a change to the zoning laws and ask the planning board to do it.
Now, I will tell you, you know, there's a number of folks here tonight, which is great. This is the forum for it. This is where you're supposed to be. But if the argument is you need to stop this, I can tell you right now that there really is nothing that can be done, absent their ability to comply with state and federal law as they open the store. They have certain guidelines that they have to fulfill, and you know, they cannot open that store until they do. So, with that, I will open up the meeting to the public. I will ask for a motion to open the meeting to the public.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Council members Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny. Yes. Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Public portion is now open. And I will ask that if you do come up, we will listen. I will give you the time. We have a time constraint, but I've never abided by a time constraint. I allow people the courtesy of coming. They've taken the time out. I would just ask that you keep your comments direct, specific, and like ladies and gentlemen. That's it. Those are my only rules. Yes? Yep. Come right up front. Please state your name and address for the record, and please address your comments directly to me.
Okay, thanks. I'm just going to read off this,
Yep.
if that's okay. My name is Michelle Fronheim-Vosk, and I live at 3 South Meadow Street in Somerville, New Jersey. I'm here to advocate against the gun and ammo shop intending to open under the sporting goods permit at 131 Gaston Avenue. I'd like to start off by mentioning my oldest daughter, Madeline, who's a senior at Somerville High School. She's a high-achieving student, a basketball player and softball player, and is focusing on her exciting prospects for college. We are entering the next phase of her life after an education in the Somerville School District, and the future is bright. There is another girl called Madeline, the same age, who was brutally murdered 11 years ago when she was in first grade at Sandy Hook Elementary School. I think about this other Madeline a lot, as she was so senselessly robbed of the everyday experiences that my daughter was given access to, simply because my Madeline was sitting in a different first grade classroom in Somerville, New Jersey. I'm not here to debate guns. Gun violence is the #1 cause of death of children in the United States. This is widely backed by publicly available, non-biased data. I do not think it's a radical idea to object an arsenal of weapons located so closely to our students. What I am asking is to create more distance from our schools and someone who might make a very bad decision. There is no regulation in this state to prevent that. There is no police officer, although they are all amazing in Somerville, who can close the distance from 131 Gaston to Vanderveer School faster than someone making a bad decision on impulse. I am not willing to risk the life of any child in this town. Like many other parents, I silently cry inside when my children describe the lockdowns that are part of their everyday life. I make a mental note of the clothes they are wearing every day in case I need to identify their bodies later. I wonder how their teachers feel, knowing day in and day out they may need to defend themselves and try and save my child in the face of a murderer. My 9-year-old son asked me the other day if they were building the new police station so close to the school in case of a school shooter. We cannot consciously add to this layer of unpredictability to the everyday realities we battle. This is not the 2.5 square miles of wonderful Somerville we signed up for. And if I was a home buyer considering moving here, I would remove Somerville from my list if a store like this was operating next to a school. In fact, research shows that these types of stores relate to increased crime and drop in property values. This permit was hastily and carelessly approved, and now I'd like to ask this council to consider the children, teachers, and staff that make up the Somerville community and ask if any of their lives are worth the risk. While gun owners have rights, our children have the right to a safe education. I'm formally requesting the council explore creating an ordinance that no guns or ammunition be sold within 1 mile of any Somerville school. The permit was approved for sporting goods, not specifically for a gun store. The owner can sell other types of sporting goods and it won't violate the permit approved. To conclude, I want to make it clear that we will not stop advocating against this, even if the store opens. And I understand the constraints that have been put in place. And to be honest, if we had ever known that this was a possibility, we would have advocated against it ahead of the time. We will legally protest, attend town meetings to comment. We will report as often as possible to the ATF and the New Jersey regulatory boards to inspect for compliance. We will continue to draw awareness on social media and news outlets, and we will advocate for an entire replacement of the zoning board as their positions come available due to this egregious and careless permit approval, because our children are worth it. Thank you, everybody, so much for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes. Your name and address for the record? And
Caroline Flamos, 37 West Spring Street. I have some notes. So I'm here as an educator of 15 years, and as a mother, as a Somerville resident, and most of all, to speak for our youngest residents who can't speak for themselves because they're getting ready for bed. It's past some of their bedtimes. I was shocked to find out that we had zoning laws that allowed for a firearms store to be so close to not only our elementary school, but Adamsville School, Good Shepherd Lutheran Daycare, and Kinder Castle Daycare, all within 1.3 miles. Our babies, Somerville's babies, and Bridgewater's babies. While the building is zoned residential, it does abut, or zoned commercial rather, it does abut residential properties. And I find that a little concerning. If I were someone coming into Somerville to buy a home, I would question whether I felt safe having a firearms store so close to my residential property. And I wonder what that might do to some of the property values in that area of Somerville. Additionally, the permit pulled is for a sporting goods store. So I would love to get some clarification on whether, since it's pulled under that sporting goods heading, does that mean that they're only going to be selling firearms and ammunition for guns that are typically used in sports, such as hunting rifles? Or are we talking about military-grade assault weapons? That's just a question. I don't know if there's any type of ordinance or law pertaining to that, right? But thinking about the fact that it's so close to residential areas and our babies, our children, I often wonder about that. In addition, I ask that the council please reopen a dialogue with the zoning board to consider banning weapon sales within 1 mile of a school. And I say that because Piscataway has a very similar ordinance. They were a little more proactive than us, and to be truthful, I didn't even think of this as a possibility moving into Somerville. I also thought that the mayor's comments earlier about a liquor store and a cannabis store and all those other things being so close to a school, I agree with you on that. I think probably we need to look at those zoning laws, especially when it comes to our youngest children who cannot speak for themselves. And finally, I would just love to see if any studies have been done in terms of how it will affect property values for the residents who live right in that area. Now, I'm fortunate to live like another mile or two down the road, so it probably might not affect my property as much, but it might affect my neighbors' properties. And you know, my mother lives not far from that area, so it might affect her property value. And that concerns me and her as residents of Somerville. And so I ask that the council just kind of marinate on some of this and think about it. I understand and I believe that this council wants the best. I know you're all residents of the town. I know you want the best for the people here. You know, part of the reason I chose to move to Somerville as a young person was because I was seeing how the changes that were happening in the town were making it a beautiful place to live. And if I were somebody moving, I don't know. I don't know if I would feel the same way in looking at some of these businesses that are near our most vulnerable.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes. Your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Alyssa Short. I live at 75 North Richards Ave in Somerville. I wrote a statement, but I'm not going to read it. I really appreciate your clarifications because it makes mostly of what I say moot. It also echoes a lot of what Michelle and Carolyn already said. I just want to ask, I should say, I hate talking about this. I'm a gun violence survivor. This is extremely taxing. So please know that this is extremely important for me to come in and do this. I just ask if there's any way. I understand that the store needs to be there, and I appreciate the work that I'm hoping the council will do to rezone so that we don't have to have a gun store so close to our students, especially when they do monthly lockdown drills that are very scary to our children. And also, as someone who has look down a barrel of a gun, I know are useless. But I also know, unfortunately, that it's an important life skill for my daughter. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, take your time.
I just ask if we can ask the business owner to change the signage so that we don't have to walk by giant bullets on the side of the Statue of Liberty every day with a font from a post-apocalyptic movie from the 1980s. It's the font from Blade Runner. It is glibly disrespectful to the immense responsibility that it takes to be a gun owner, which I know. I grew up in a house of hunters. I respect the practice of hunting. I am not against gun ownership, but I know that it is an immense responsibility, and I would appreciate if there's anything we could do to take that signage back so that it doesn't look like a gaming store and it doesn't give our children mixed messages that they need to hide in the corner of their classroom once a month, and then they go out and they see a store that looks like a gaming store. That just makes guns look like they're fun, because they're not. I appreciate your time, and thanks for your patience while I got through this.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Other public comment? Yes.
Megan Andrews, 12 Walnut Street in Somerville. I have about 20 years experience as a public school teacher in New Jersey, 5 of those years on Lakehurst Navy Base, the only public high school that was ever in the country that was on a military base. Happened to be there for 9/11, so I have kind of an interesting, unique background. I want to reiterate what's been said before. I'm not going to repeat that. But I learned a new word this week, ordinance, spelled O-R-D-N-A-N-C-E. Webster's Dictionary defines it as military supplies. The Oxford reference says it means mounted guns and cannons. The Cambridge Dictionary definition is military weapons and bombs and large guns on wheels. Knowing this now, in my opinion, high caliber ordnance is a strange name for a sporting goods store.
Please address your comments to me, please. Not the audience. Thank you.
I was shocked, appalled, when I saw the name, visiting another business there, and I went online looking this company up, and as the kids say, it's sus. I've been Googling, I've been looking around. They have an address on Prince Rogers where Freedom Martial Arts used to be. There's nothing on this company online, which I find odd. But going off of what the last woman just said, I think high caliber ordnance gives our town not a look that I think we should have. And if it's a sporting goods store, why are we talking about, why are they using a word that, the other thing I found online about that word was it's almost always only used in terms of war. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comment? Yes. Hi.
My name's Emily Quasier. I live at 200 West Cliff Street, in Somerville, obviously. I'm encouraged by your words about looking into the zoning laws, and I appreciate everything that's been said already. I grew up in Jersey, but I spent most of my adult life living in Texas. I moved back here about 2 years ago, charmed by the safety and small town feel. And, you know, I have a pretty high tolerance for guns, living in a place where open carry was just a thing that we had to deal with, and that was part of life. I lived in a progressive suburb of Austin with great schools, great community feel, and we had a lot of death to gun violence in our quiet neighborhood. Just due to accidents, domestic disputes, teenagers stealing their parents' guns. Every year, like in our safe suburban area, people died. So I'm coming to you, not to tell you my life story, but to say, what are we going to do about the details? What are we going to do about the enforcement? This store is going to be here. It's a clear shot to school property from that parking lot. It's, if not on, adjacent to a federal gun-free school zone. How are we going to handle enforcement? What are the rules surrounding kids going into the store? Is that even legal? Can a kid walking home from elementary school or a high schooler pop in and look at the guns? How does that work? What's going to be the burden on our police force here? I really want to see the police involved because these stores are a magnet for crime and accidents happen. Even putting aside the real tangible risks to our children, just what if a gun goes off in the parking lot? How's that going to be handled? I wonder if, in addition to looking at the zoning laws, we can also, rather than just sort of throw our hands up and hope that nothing bad happens, like really proactively look and make sure that this store is conforming to all applicable laws. The gun-free school zone, carding people coming into the store, whatever needs to happen. Maybe we can put up signage saying it's a gun-free school zone. Maybe we can put up an actual barrier so that stray bullets can't hit our children. I'm sorry that we have to think about these logistics, but I would really like to have some focus on the nuts and bolts as well to increase safety in an immediate way.
Thank you. Any more public comment? Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Kate Ambrose, I live at 204 East Cliff Street. I've written something in preparation, and some of it has been said, but I'll reiterate, and I appreciate your comments about the rezoning. I would like to thank you for allowing me to speak, and all my friends and neighbors for listening to my concerns. My husband Rob and I have lived on East Cliff Street for 13 and a half years and are so proud to call this town home. We have a beautiful daughter who's in first grade at Vanderveer School. Like many of you, we have the kind of neighborhood where children play outside almost daily. Both older and younger kids run from yard to yard the way that they did when we were young. This type of neighborhood is increasingly rare in current times. Living in this town and in our neighborhood allows our kids to maintain innocence and freedom to be children. They have felt safe, secure, and supported by the adults in our community. We need to continue to support them and to be the voice for them when necessary. It is our job to stand up for the fact that our children do not need to be exposed and desensitized to weapons and ammunition simply by walking home from school. My husband and I are teachers in a nearby school district. For the past few years, we have shared the same focus as Somerville schools, the social and emotional health and well-being of our students. This focus has been extremely important in recovering from COVID isolation, the contentious political climate, racial inequities in our larger society, and in the face of dealing with one school shooting after another in this country. We do all we can as parents and teachers to make our kids feel safe and to keep them from growing up too fast. My daughter has not yet had to process the fact that there are more guns than people in this country. Weapons of war are widely available to those who want them, or that lockdown drills that we practice in school are to prepare us for a violent and horrible event, which no town ever thinks will happen to them. We're all very lucky for this. I believe that most of us want to keep our kids a bit more innocent and keep them from facing these realities for as long as possible. Opening a gun shop in our neighborhood, the one shared by our elementary school, does not reflect the values of our community or our town. I understand that it is the legal right to own guns. I understand that the zoning allows for this type of store. I understand that the mayor and borough council do not have the ability to approve or deny this type of shop. But I ask you to hear the concerns of your residents and help to ensure this can't happen in the future. Many neighbors and friends are concerned about the vape shop and liquor store that are in close proximity to the school as well. Let's please do the work together to shape the type of neighborhoods we want in this town. Lastly, I hope that the prospective owner of this guns and ammo shop hear the concerns of his neighbors. I ask that he make the responsible decision to find another location. Thank you for allowing me and others to speak tonight about an issue that we feel so strongly about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes.
Hi, Bronwyn Pucci, 63 West Orchard Street. I don't have anything prepared, and I just want to reiterate what everyone else has spoken so bravely and eloquently. For everybody who has had the courage and the ability to attend this meeting and speak publicly, you can be certain there are dozens, if not hundreds, of residents who feel the same way and are not here to say it. So we speak on behalf of all of them. I'm encouraged that you, as a mayor and council, are interested in reviewing the zoning laws in this town, and you have an opportunity here to do what's right and to make Somerville safer and keep Somerville the town that we've all come to love to raise our kids in. I know most of you personally, you're either raising kids here or have already done so, and I want you to keep that in mind when you do revisit this, how you would feel if it was your children in school, down the road, walking past it on the way home, on the way to school, on the way to get a slice of pizza with their friends. You have a real opportunity here to do what's right, and that's what we elected you to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes.
Hello and thank you. Christina Edelman, 42 Coddington Place. I am a teacher in our middle school here in Somerville and have the pleasure of teaching some of your children, as well as having 2 children that go to Vanderveer. My family fell in love with Somerville and moved here not many years ago, looking for exactly what Somerville has to offer. This beautiful, quiet town, supportive community everywhere. And I want to thank you guys for all of your involvement in making Somerville that place and continuing to work to make that even more so. Our school district is a walking school district. Our children walk by all of the businesses on their way to school. They will see all of these things as they walk with their parents or on their own. So as you look at zoning laws, remember every single street in this town is walked by children on their way to school. Our walking school bus and all of those things. We don't have buses that can hurry kids by. They see and they notice. And it's important for us to see what they're seeing and notice what they're noticing, because they don't necessarily have the voices to describe that. I have sat with your children in lockdown drills. In other states, I have gone through police drills and been shot at in preparation. So it is a very real thing for every teacher and every child in this community, and I fully support you going forward and am so encouraged to hear about your concerns and steps that you may take to ensure that Somerville is the safe, quiet community where every single child can walk to school and feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.
Hi, my name's Vic Truitt. I'm at 18 West Spring Street. This seems like an issue you ought to go to the mats on. I mean, you know, you've got some wiggle room here, right? I mean, is this business only dealing with the planning
This is
board?
comment period. You're allowed to make comments.
Okay, well, the comment I have is that if I were you all, I would think creatively about a way to stop this thing. Because if you stop this thing and take a risk, pay this lawyer a little bit of money to go stop this thing, and you guys are going to be heroes. If this thing goes through, you're out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yeah.
Mayor Gallagher, Council. Like many of my residents.
Your name and address?
Yes, McKeel Muhlenberg, 31 Eastern Avenue. Proud resident of Somerville now for 16 years. Came here because I love the town. I love getting the twice daily updates about how wonderful this town is. I was incredibly upset when I found out there was an ammunition and weapons store opening up maybe 4 blocks from my house, within 1,000 feet of a school, one that my kid goes to. So I stand with the rest of the residents here that are concerned. I'm actually surprised and appalled that zoning allows for this kind of behavior. It's not a debate about gun rights, it's a debate about the proximity of a business like this to a school, our children. So I'm here just to, like the others said, echo what they said, asking for help. Think creatively. This should never have been a debate in the first place. We should have been aware about this. There are other areas that probably need ordinance reviews as well, and I appreciate you taking the time to look at this. But I'm scared for what this could mean for the future. I'm worried about the great 2.5 square miles of Somerville that this is and what it will be in the future. So again, I appreciate your help. I want this looked at seriously. And I'm going to join my fellow residents in making sure that our voices are heard, including the other hundreds of residents here that are probably not able to come and talk, and the kids that don't have a chance to even say anything right now. So they're the ones that are the victims here. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes.
Margaret Weinberger, 42 North Meadow Street, Somerville. Brian, I think I was under the impression, my comment to you is I think it's a 1,000-foot barrier, that it can't be near, it's a state law or a federal law. I'm not sure which one it is, but it can't be within 1,000 feet. So I'm just making the comment that if you look at a map as the crow flies, it is really within the 1,000 feet. So I want to be sure that you and the Borough Council were very diligent about getting the exact measurements of how far away the store property is from the corner property of the school. And my second part of the comment is, if you're afraid of being sued over something that you obviously feel very strongly about and you don't want either, and if your fear is about being sued, I think that everybody here would attest to the fact that maybe something's not right with that picture. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to close the public session.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Deneen. Yes. Tom Mitchell.
Yes.
Randy Pitts.
Yes.
Gina Stravic.
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Public comment is closed. Just a quick couple of points of follow-up. One, thank you all. This could be a very heated meeting, and I think all of you conducted yourselves as ladies and gentlemen. And that's the wonder of Somerville, that we allow that, we enable that to happen. So thank you all for doing that. As I said before, the planning board, I will refer back to the planning board, the idea that we're going to take up all of our zoning. And again, it's not just this issue, it's overall, to begin to define, in today's lens, what is acceptable in certain areas of town, what's not acceptable. And what I would encourage you to do, the planning board does this in a very public forum. Come out, be a part of that process. I think you'll find it a very interesting process, where people exchange ideas. It's not a demand of I want this or I don't want this. It's a healthy exchange of ideas of what we think is appropriate for downtown, appropriate for those fringe areas that this is. And I think you'll come out of it with a better knowledge of what that process is and how it functions and why that process is there. So I want to thank you. I thank you all for coming out on a night that is less than stellar. And council shares your concern. We all share your concern. The compliance now comes at the state and federal level. And that is where it's at this point. So thank you. Know that our police department is well aware. They do a phenomenal job. And, our goal is to keep, as I say, our 2.5 square miles of awesome. And it is. And it will be. And it will continue to be our 2.5 square miles of awesome. Some people laugh at that, but that's why we're all here. That's why we live here, because it's a great community, and that's what we do. So thank you. The council thanks you. Every one of us up here shares those concerns. So thank you all. Thank you for coming out. Consent resolutions. Item number 10. We have numbers 038 through 045. Are there any to be pulled off for further consideration? No? Okay. 38, authorizing invoicing for 2024 parking impact fees. 39, appointing Geraldine DeSapio as a regular member of the Environmental Commission to the terms as stated. 040, affirming appointment of Deputy Emergency Management Coordinators Brian O'Neill and Kevin Sluka. 41, acceptance resignation from Roberta Harmon from the Environmental Commission. With regrets, she did a phenomenal job for the many years she was on. 42 is appointing T. Marie Deal and Jeffrey Tinio to the Environmental Commission as alternate 1 and alternate 2. 43 is affirming the Environmental Commission members and expiration dates. 44 is authorizing an agreement between the Borough of Somerville and County of Somerset for recycling pickup for the year of 2024. As a quick aside, Kevin, can you reach out to the county DPW? I've had a number of folks ask me when they're going to get their big recycling buckets instead of the small blue ones. I see big, yeah. Can we reach out? I know it was a multi-year effort, and they were taking pieces of different towns. 45 is requesting that FDS Somerville, pursuant to the terms of the governing build-to-suit lease, authorize and execute change order number 1, entered into by FDS Somerville with David Harvey Builders. Change order number 1 provides for the supply of a vehicle exhaust system to be installed in the emergency services facility at the location noted. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny. Yes. Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Randy Pitts,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Bills and vouchers.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to move in the amount of $1,212,895.47.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Council members, Teresa Bonner,
Yes.
Glenn Denny. Yes. Tom Mitchell,
Yes.
Randy Pitts,
Yes.
Gina Stravic,
Yes.
Roger Vroom.
Yes.
Do we have a motion for adjournment?
Move for adjournment.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This meeting is adjourned.